super excited to do this one, and I plan to put out more and more videos as our kind of journey ends over here. But yes, today I have Ishita over here, who's from the current cohort, which is 26 batch. Without, I think, further delay, welcome Ishita to our channel, and I would love you to explain who you are, what has been your journey, and we can discuss further.
Hi, thanks for having me, Sham, first of all. So yeah, who am I? I am, like you said, I'm in the current batch of IIM Bangalore EPGP 26. And before this, I was in Deloitte. I've got an overall experience of around 6.5 years completely with Deloitte Consulting USI. My role started as a developer, a SharePoint developer, and it went on to become more of a project management and program management role. It was entirely in implementation consulting, but the kind of projects that I was a part of really varied a lot. Like I said, my first project was in SharePoint consulting. Then we went on to data transformation. Then I really liked the aspect of data. So then I went ahead with data visualization centered around Tableau. And then there was the data implementation projects as well. So the IT service management projects. So I was parallelly part of 2 to 3 IT service management projects, and that is where I actually grew more as a decision maker as well, which ultimately helped me take the decision of joining IIM Bangalore.
Yeah, so I believe you have 6.5 years work ex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 6.5 year work ex. I mean, you worked at one of the top firms in the world. Why do you kind of decide to do an MBA?
So I honestly, from a consulting point of view, I was in a pretty sweet spot. What actually triggered me in terms of, okay, maybe I need to check something else out as well, was one thing that I saw was the most, if not all of the leadership at Deloitte, like actually the top bosses, all of them had an MBA. So that, was the first thing that I was like, okay, that's something that maybe will either help me or will get me there. So that was
Yeah.
one thing. And the other thing was basically, so in one of my projects, I actually went ahead and created a tool that was initially just for, to make my work easier. But I realized that it was bigger than that. And upon exploring the entire process, I came to know about this particular role called product management.
Yeah.
Again, I realized that that is also something that would benefit from the decision of of joining Bangalore for an MBA. So I had two roads ahead of me, and both of them went through IIM Bangalore. So yeah, it was the
Oh,
decision was there.
interesting, interesting. So I think when new applicants kind of call me, I'm sure you face the same. A lot of folks from like companies like Deloitte's,
Hmm.
right, kind of ask this question that, hey, I want to join an MBA, and most of them kind of have an answer that I want to get back to consulting.
Hmm.
Were you of the same opinion? What was like going in your head, specifically with like post MBA plans?
So one thing that definitely did attract me was like a strategy kind of role. There are certain overlaps in terms of like, let's say, corporate strategy and consulting. So it wasn't as if I had ruled out consulting or strategy, but strategy definitely did attract me because that was I was almost a bit comfortable with it because my role was more aligned towards strategy.
Yeah.
Second, I at the same time, like I mentioned, I also had the road of a product manager open. So these were honestly the three goals that I had in mind. That okay, this probably these three roles would be somewhere where I see myself post my MBA.
Interesting, interesting. And then, like, getting to your interview process, if you remember, what sort of questions do you think were asked? Because I'm sure, like for folks like me, a very different set of questions are asked. But for
Okay.
people who come from corporate,
Hmm.
and probably want to get back into corporate, the questions are way different, especially when you have like consulting experience and stuff,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
just to give like people some context as to what sort of questions can they expect when you walk into an IIM Bangalore EPGP interview.
So one thing that I really appreciated about the IIM Bangalore interview was it really, let me be who I am. I
Yeah.
was very comfortable in terms of answering the questions that they had, and their questions seemed very sensible. Honestly, I know it seems a very simple statement to make, but you could actually see what they were trying to gauge. Okay, so
Mm,
like they wanted to make sure that I understand. So Deloitte is a big firm, right?
yeah.
So being in Deloitte versus understanding what the firm does and what am I doing? Like, I am a cog in the entire machine, but how do I actually help Deloitte? How do I impact it? So they
Yeah.
first of all they wanted to see whether I understand what Deloitte does and how am I one resource, a part of that entire company. So there were
Yeah.
quite a few questions around that. And then I think the major questions were around my role because so my role is kind of a mixture of project management, which is closest I can describe it would be of a delivery manager, uh,
Mm,
and at the same time, since there were multiple initiatives across multiple projects, right? So there was also an element of program management. So there is no one clear, designation or description that I can give. So this is, and I think anyone who has been part of project management has like this is kind of a rite of passage that they need to have a conversation in explaining what their role was. So again, I had to go through that in that interview as well. Fortunately, I was prepared for it, and I was able to explain both my role and the multiple different types of projects that I was a part of. And yeah, well, I
mm.
guess it turned out good.
No, absolutely. Of course it did. Uh, uh, so, okay, so let's get back to like 1st of April 2025. First day of class. How did that kind of seem like looking at the entire cohort and sitting in the class? And I know I was intimidated for sure.
So first of all, I was hoping it's an April Fool's joke that we were starting classes on 1st April. Till like even 5 minutes before the class, I was like, no, the class is not happening today. This is just a joke. But that was not the case. But yeah, I mean, yes, I think most, if not all of the people, none of them are like small names, small brands. Everyone knows their stuff. Everyone has reached here after becoming someone, right?
Yeah,
So yes, it was a bit intimidating, but then slowly you also gain kind of like a confidence in yourself that okay, I am also a part of this cohort, which means that if I am feeling this about others, I'm sure that others would be feeling this about myself, about me as well. So yeah, you interact with people, you find out, oh, and then you sometimes you also have common experiences with them that really helps you gel with the folks. And of course, as and when you go ahead in the course, you find out more, you work together across more projects, you see people make some of the mistakes that you might have made as well. So yeah,
correct.
that really helps you gel up.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of taking this is, I think, one common question that I've been asking everyone. Uh, so when you sit inside classes, right, of course, you're
Hmm.
learning a lot of like academic stuff, frameworks, and
Hmm.
uh, things like that. But what is that kind of one or two things that you kind of take from a lot of these classes that doesn't really have to do with academics, right? I'm talking like intangibles. Can you think of anything?
So yeah, I can. I think one thing that I think most of our batch has definitely been able to take is the way that we were presenting ourselves, both in like let's say class presentations, but the way we just presented ourselves to others when the
Yeah.
batch started versus by the time
Hmm.
batch ended. There's a stark difference. Uh,
Hmm.
there were people who really could not, stand in front of a crowd and talk. But then you look at them now, and like
Yeah.
they've really shown out. So that is one thing. But I mean, another thing that I personally on my end have felt is if you look at it, the frameworks and the academics is not just limited to paper. Of course, it goes beyond that and goes to your job as well.
Yeah.
But I also feel that once you start thinking about all of those things more in terms of the environment around you, more in terms of how things actually work, not just, okay, this is the correct decision, so this needs to take place. That's not it. It's more about maybe that is what happened there, and hence this happened. Being able to click those dots,
Yeah.
both, that is something that I personally feel I've been able to take beyond the classrooms, honestly.
Yeah. it's fulfilling also, honestly,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
like I remember sitting in like entrepreneurship class where professor would say something and I was like, oh, ऐसा था क्या? You know, so it's very kind of retrospective. Yeah, but now moving on to like the fun stuff,
Hmm.
campus life. Can you
Hmm.
share like some anecdotes that you really enjoy about the campus? Also share like you live with your spouse, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people kind of have that doubt that, hey, if I live with my spouse, is it going to be easy, difficult? Will it
Hmm.
be, you know, will it be like comfortable for the other partner, etc., etc.? So can you like shed some light over there as well?
So first of all, positives about the campus, I mean, it's an entire list. I think the biggest way it has helped me is, so I could not swim at all when I joined here. And
Yes.
now I literally just completed like a 1 hour swim of like, I'm very happy with that. I'm honestly, everything aside, I am very happy that I can swim now. I'm not scared of deep water.
By the way, for people, I mean, setting up context, Ishita has not just learned swimming, she's also competed in multiple sporting events that you've had. Go on.
I had not even thought that that was a possibility. I was like, huh, as long as I'm not able to drown, I'm good. But fortunately, I've reached beyond that. So that is like, I think that my biggest takeaway. And of course, the bookstore. I mean, I'm an avid reader, and going to the bookstore beyond your course books is something that's
Yeah.
very normal for me. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of the campus. But of course, there are other elements. We've got quite a few sporting facilities. We've got quite a few fests as well. Unmad was just around the corner, and it was an amazing fest. And you've got a lot of other exposures. I think that is just something. So there's always a choice, right? You can always take part in everything. You can always like kind of build a niche for yourself. But whatever you want, you will get it. You want
Yeah.
a purely academic experience, you will get that. You want a purely cultural experience, sporting experience, whatever you want, you will get it. But the choice is yours, of course.
Yeah.
So I really love the campus because of that. Coming to the fact that I do live with my spouse here, I think if there's anyone who has enjoyed the campus more than me, it's him. So, having said that, he's been very vocal about the fact that he is more sad that my 1 year at IIM Bangalore is ending. He's sadder than me because he will definitely miss all of the campus facilities.
Yeah.
Everything that is open to us as students is available to them. The campus, the environment, everyone is very open and comfortable towards spouses who are, living with us over here. There are,
Yeah.
by spouses, I mean, there are other people who've got their spouses, including Shivam, who
Yes.
also has spouse living on campus, and I'm sure she will miss the campus as well.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah, no, I think for all the folks who have the doubts about how will their partners live, man, it's actually more fun for them. In fact, like our spouses
True.
have gone on a trip and we haven't gone,
Yeah.
right? So all of those connections kind of build, but it depends a lot to do with personality, how you are as a person. If you're outgoing, if you're, you want to be in the house. I mean, it totally depends. I
Yep.
think we have like a plethora of offerings
Exactly.
that we have. And like you rightly pointed out, मतलब तुम्हें जो करना है करो. There are
Yeah.
so many things that you can do. Yeah, I think coming back to like I am Bangalore. So what was kind of your post MBA goal? I mean, now that placements have been done, would love to hear how that kind of changed over the journey of 1 year, and how does it kind of, in retrospect, if I have to say, how do you kind of think about it?
Retrospect, it seems very easy. Having gone through it, it wasn't. So, like I mentioned, I had come to I'm Bangalore with three options with respect to my placements. The strongest that I felt was the right for me was product management. At the
Yeah.
same time, I did feel that coming from Deloitte with an experience in implementation consulting, I did feel that my skill set could be mapped to consulting and strategy as well. At the same time, I mean, I did need to focus on one thing. So we do have a process in which, there's a department called CDS, and that helps you. number one, they help you align your skill sets. They help
Yeah.
you, they look at your resume and they help you select, okay, whether this particular career path makes sense for you as of the skills that you currently have. You may
Yeah.
choose to build skills to align yourself more with the role that you want. But again, that is a choice that you need to make. At the same time, what other roles that you might not be aware of, but you definitely can go with considering your previous experience. That is also something that they help you out with. Apart from that, we do have industry mentors, folks from similar pedigree with respect to both companies and colleges
Yeah.
that did help us, that did give you, did give us an overview of, what is it like to be in that particular role, both from like from a day-to-day angle and from a future angle, like what are the what is the career growth, what can you expect in that role, how do you prep for that role, what is normal,
Yeah.
what is not normal, pros, cons, exit strategy, all of it. So I think that definitely helped me, choose or focus on the paths. At
Yeah.
the same time, it also helped me understand that, okay, from I went from consulting strategy and product to strategy and product, then ultimately I wanted to focus on product itself.
Yeah.
So all of that was definitely possible because of those sessions. Apart from that, another thing that CDS and the team over here did was we had a lot of mock interviews. We had a
Yeah.
lot of session. We had the opportunity of choosing industry mentors who I could, literally just call them up. Okay, I'm having a problem over here. Could you review my resume? Could you help out with this particular skill set? I was actually thinking of going ahead with this course. Do you think that's helpful? So I think there were multiple ways in which AIM Bangalore and its entire environment helped me both choose the path that I want to take in the future and actually align and get it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, completely. I think uh, definitely helps you kind of funnel exactly what you want.
Mhm,
Um, so I know a lot of folks kind of come to for an MBA for Prodman, like you said, right? So
mhm,
any kind of tips or things to keep in mind for the students who are incoming or future applicants if they want to kind of pivot their career to Prodman, what kind of skill sets should they have? What kind of
mhm.
skill sets should they gain? Um, and like just like some hygiene factors, do's and don'ts. Uh, yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
So I think product management as a role, as a product management manager, you really do need to interact with a lot of different teams, right? You need to interact with the marketing folks, you need to interact with the business folks, developers, and so on. So one thing that I did have in mind when with respect to product management was to understand more about these roles as long as I'm here. So we do have subjects in marketing, we do have subjects in strategy, we do have subjects purely related to product management, such as gamification and software product management as well. So while I did choose those electives that aligned with product management, I made sure that I studied or got or was able to understand the perspective of the folks that I'm going to interact with outside of my, only my product management role.
Yeah,
So, because one of the questions that was, I was expected to know was that how am I supposed to interact with the marketing team? Because
yeah,
and if I understand their goals, if I understand the language, their perspective, it will always be helpful for me, for them, and for any firm that I join, right? So and the same goes for the other teams that I will need to work with. So one thing would be to understand the entire environment, understand what someone says when they're from a different team. At the same time, to be able, product management in itself also has its own strategy. Understand that, understand what are your KPIs, what is required from a product manager. That would be one thing, but you also, it's kind of like kind of like an amalgamation. You need to know bits and pieces of everything. So a minimum would be to have like an exposure of what is actually going on in the industry,
yeah,
especially with, like, I mean, I'm sure you'll have this statement in most if not all of your videos. With the oncoming of AI, everything has changed, so you cannot be limited to what the traditional product management role was. You need to be
absolutely.
available, you need to be aware of way more things than maybe like 5 or 10 years back, right? So instead of limiting, I guess it would be better if you're more aware of things that are happening and how, again, things interlink with each other.
Hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. And like, of course, you spoke about the process,
Hmm.
like, but I wanted to understand from you personally, how
Hmm.
were kind of your kind of emotions, so to say, changing? Because I think changing of objectives through the MBA journey can be a bit struggling because it's very tough. At least for the first two terms, three terms, it's intense, right? So can you like highlight to like people when things were kind of moving so fast in and around with you, how were you kind of handling it emotionally or like yeah, I think that emotionally.
So I think the first time it actually, not hit me, but the first time I felt was with in a project with you actually. I remember we had CNS project together, right?
Mm,
And we were supposed to work with an Indian company, or like work
mm.
around an Indian company
Yeah.
and find out their strategies and goals, etc. I had come from a project manager experience working in a US
Mm,
based company. All my clients were American. I had no idea. I ended up working with a footwear manufacturer in India,
yeah,
which was an
yeah,
amazing experience. But the thing is, I did not know anything about it. And
exactly.
including you, there were other folks in the team who had even their general knowledge was more than me. And I
Yeah.
remember I went to other folks in the batch with a similar experience as me, people from the consulting industry who had not worked in the
Mm.
Indian market. And I asked them, is this just me or is it us at this point? And they're like, no, this is us. Don't worry. You
That's
have your strengths. You just need to
yeah,
find out how you're useful for the project, how you're useful for the batch. And I think that is definitely helped me. Everybody
yeah.
has their own role to play. Make sure that you learn from the folks who bring in a different experience. Make sure you're useful to the folks who have a different experience so that you can add to them and they can add to you, which
Yeah,
is one of the major things in MBA, right? But then when it hits you that, okay, there are significant things outside of your radius, I think that is the biggest thing. But then, fortunately, in CNS, you of all people who do, that our team was pretty good. It was comfortable
yeah,
working. I learned. I hope you guys learned from me as well.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it was great,
absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, no, these group projects, thank you for reminding me actually. I've never asked this question to everyone. These group projects actually set crazy dynamics, right? Because
Definitely.
it is a worldwide of emotion. Sorry, what is the word? Whirlwind, no. Anyway, it is a bunch of emotions flowing, right? Because you get angry, you get sad, no one is listening to your opinion, someone has a better opinion than you are judging yourself. So all of those yeah, group dynamics is definitely something that you get to learn. And I think it's a part of the entire MBA experience.
True.
You can hate it, but unfortunately you can't escape it.
So I think I agree with everything that you said, but there's, I think, one other aspect of it. What I feel, it may or may not change, I'm not sure. But what I feel is in quite a few colleges, what tends to happen is you've got one team whom you work with in the entire year. There are quite a few
Yeah,
colleges who do have that, but
correct,
that is
correct,
not the
correct.
case at IIM Bangalore. And
Yeah.
initially, I was like, okay, maybe it's just a different way of functioning. But honestly, one of the best decisions that they've made, I feel, because you get to work with almost the entire batch. You get to work
Yeah.
with, once you choose your electives, you get to work with PGPs. It is like so for us the batch was of 73, right? Out of 72, I would have probably teamed up with at least 50 plus. So I
Yeah.
have actually spent time with 50 plus people working on something that is significant to them and to me. And of course, that is just the academic point of view. There are other things, cultural activities, sports, and things like that, that is separate. But that really helps you both break the ice, and working together really connects you at a different level. So I really
Yeah.
appreciated that at this college.
Nice. Now, coming to the holy grail of all questions, which is the why MBA question, right? What was your YMBA during your SOPs and the interviews? And how do you think that has kind of changed now?
So one of the major reasons, like I said from the start, product management was one thing that I had my eye upon, and I did need to work with a lot of teams. I had zero idea what marketing does. I did have an idea what developers do, coming from having worked as a developer as well. I had not zero, but I had very little idea about how strategies are implemented, what are frameworks, nothing,
Yeah.
right? So while all of this can be, you can learn this through various different methods online. These days, there's nothing that is not available. But to be able to get an actual experience, both in classroom and outside, I think that just was a different version of it altogether. I think the biggest aspect that two big aspects that I can think of are, one was the entrepreneurship class in our first term, right? We had so NSR Cell is obviously one of the biggest, uh,
Incubators.
incubators in our country, and we had people who were working there, people with their own startups come in class, and we could interact with them. We had questions. We actually had to do projects with them, so
Right.
that took it at a different level. And of course, I remember as part of our international experience, right? As part of that, again, we'd gone to Portugal. Over there, again, startups are something that are really, really given importance. And so over there also, we went to a big incubator over there. And again, the experience was different, but it added to it. Again, we met another startup founder. We understood his journey. He was an Indian as well, so
Yeah.
we could relate with him, and that entire experience was amazing. And I don't think any sort of online classes, videos, or anything would have been able to replace this.
That is true. That is true. Um, yeah, and kind of a few more thoughts. What do you think about like specifically the EPGP cohort from IIM Bangalore? You know, the
Mhm.
program itself, how it is placed, etc., etc. What do you think about it?
I think with respect to our entire batch, honestly, I think we've been mapped very well to IIM Bangalore. All
Yeah.
of the values of this campus per se, right, are visible in, like, elements of it are visible throughout the batch. We've got a
Yeah.
very nice, cohesive batch, people who are supportive of each other. I mean, I did not expect an MBA cohort to be this supportive, this
Yeah.
helpful. And of course, all of us are ambitious. So the thought process of wanting to do something, wanted to achieve something is there. But seeing others help you and seeing others appreciate your help is not necessarily something that you see in all colleges, right? But I was very pleasantly surprised by how, just together this batch is, how supportive this batch is. So I really, really like that. And and I think that is definitely something that as a value is present in the entire college per se. You go
Yeah.
to professors, you go to folks from different courses. As part of electives in the last two terms, we do get to share classes with the PGP folks, which are
Yeah.
the folks who've come here for the 2-year courses,
To your
and also the
courses.
PGPM folks who have who can have industry experience from
Mhm.
15 years to 20 years and so on, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is helpful, everyone is respectful, everyone understands that you bring value the same way that they do as well. So I think that is one of the very, very positive aspects of this college.
Yeah. Oh, well put. Well put. Okay. So, I think the last question, I won't take much of your time. What would be your parting thoughts to the applicants who are probably, so we're in March right now. I remember I was in this dilemma. So, what are your thoughts about applying to IIM Bangalore EPGP's program? How should they do? How should they think about it? What should they think about, questions that they should kind of ponder upon while building their applications? Just like some umbrella thoughts for them.
I think being able to answer those interview questions is one thing, honestly. But being true to yourself and justifying both an MBA, this time, this effort, that is actually more important. Being able to justify that, just it should not be that, okay, I want to do an MBA. That's it. That's not how things go. And everyone will understand if that is the case in your thinking. You need to understand what you want when you come here. You need to be very clear about your priorities. You need to be very clear what you want to take away. And you need to ensure that you're able to do that, which is a long list, I understand. But then this is not an easy course. This is not something that is very easy for people to do. But just make sure that you have that clarity in mind. Ask all 10,000 level questions to yourself. Make sure there is not even an ounce of confusion about why
Yeah,
you want to do an MBA, whether this makes sense for you. And if it doesn't, it's completely fine.
very
Yeah.
true, very true. No, that is absolutely. Ask yourself questions. I mean, when I get questions from applicants, I mean, a lot of us are still confused about why we really want to do an MBA, right?
True.
There is, a lot of folks have that answer of, hey, I want to get a job, right? But I don't think that only can be your objective coming in here, because if you're going to come with that thought process, uh, then best of luck. Because I mean, MBA or IIM Bangalore is not a placement machine. I think it primes you for placements. It is definitely a level playing field where all of us get the same opportunities, and we sort of have to battle each other out with our profiles. But your past cannot be changed, right?
That is definitely true because placement would not be the only thing that we come here for. It's completely so. In prepping yourself for the interview itself, I felt that there was a
Hmm.
different version of me that came ahead because again I had to ask all those difficult questions. So I mean it was actually an internal joke that I had that before coming, it felt that I've already done an MBA before coming here. And then of course came the professors and the classes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, super. Uh, Bang on time. Anything else you want to say, Ishita, before we kind of close?
Just all the best to everyone. Make sure you ask yourselves the tough questions. That's all.
Super. Love it.